Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel and podcast. It's Monday night, 9:30. We're back asking the same question we always ask. What's going on? I'll tell you what's going on. The Evermore physios, much like the Newcastle United physios, will be working overtime because Mark's back, everybody. Yay! What's going on, Bonnie Land?
I'm good, mate. I'm doing much better than I was last week. Thank you to the lads and lasses at Crampton Hospital for looking after us last week. Because I wasn't particularly great on Monday last week. Let's put it that way. So thank you to them. They've looked after us, and I am much better.
Absolutely. Well, we had some lovely comments from you, from all the regular viewers and the new subscribers as well, just wishing you well. And I must just warn you guys, looking at football stats is a very, very dangerous game. So, look at it responsibly, because if you look at shots per 90 minutes and XG too long, you may end up in a hospital bed just like Mark did. So be safe out there, statisticians and analytical monsters that you are.
It's even better if you work for TNT and you just make your stats up as they did for But what's it, Harvey Elliott yesterday with his 8 assists in the Premier League this year.
Yeah, but it doesn't take much longer when you only have 6 teams that you look at as well, Mark. But that's another argument for another day. We've got loads to talk about tonight, especially a certain team in London who are soaring high like the Eagles. They are currently battering Manchester United 4-0, as everyone's talked about in the comments.
Glorious.
Chef's kiss. Before we even talk about Newcastle United, this is sweet nectar for a Sunday evening. So Monday evening. My God, what day is it? Bank holiday, Monday evening. I've lost the plot already. I'll be in a hospital bed next. But we're going to get stuck right into this. We've got a jam-packed schedule to talk about. Great weekend for Newcastle United, as always. Just before we get into it, a little reminder, if you haven't already, smash subscribe. We'd love you to come and join us. We are over 7,500 subs now, so loads of room for you on Evermore. Thanks to those great people who clicked that button. We're heading on to 8,000, which is absolutely amazing. I always say we are still quite young in terms of the old YouTube world. Mark always tells me off, but we are still young compared to some of these old granddads that have been out there for a long time. So thank you for all your love and support. It's all free content. If you want to give a bit back to the channel, there is an option down there. As always, you can be a member, get early access to the stat videos, the transfer rumors, the rants, all the kind of things that we do. So smash whichever option suits you best. And let's get stuck in to it, Mark. So
just on that as well, just if you don't spot the comment as well, you can also follow it on WhatsApp now as well. We do have the WhatsApp channel that is the link is in the description.
He's fully fit, guys. He's pulling me back because I'm away with it. He's fully fit. You can see that he's back. He's back in the room. He's back in the room. So without further ado, let's get stuck into it now, Mark, if I haven't forgotten anything else. So the first category tonight is how you do it. That's right. We're talking about the way the team played probably over the last 2 games, really, Palace aside. But after looking at it tonight, I think most teams could get done off Palace the way they're playing. But looking at the way Eddie Howe set the team up, certainly against Sheffield United and Burnley, yes, relegation fodder, but certainly against Burnley, Mark, praise where it's due. Eddie Howe changed the formation. Nobody's seen it coming. But just before we get into this, we're not talking about this because of people jumping in the comments and trying to start arguments after victories. If you want to start an argument, go to the local boozer and start one. You probably won't because you'll be worried someone will punch you in the neck or something like that. Don't jump in people's comments and start shouting and bawling at people. Just go sit in your little pickled poison puddle of piss somewhere. There's some alliteration for you on a Monday night and get on with it, because we're going to give praise to the manager when he deserves it, but we're also going to criticize him when he deserves that too, which is what we do as a channel. We've never said Eddie Howe out. We don't do that. We don't believe that. Not for 1 second as Mark and I ever said that. Go back and watch any videos if you doubt it. Anybody in the comments realizes that we don't think that. But going back to the main point at hand, Mark, Eddie Howe saw Burnley's frailties, really, and he changed things, which is a criticism we've given him in the past of being too rigid with his formation. Nobody saw 2 up front coming at the weekend, mate, did
they? No, probably not. I mean, you sort of mentioned relegation fodder for them. They'd only lost 1 in their last 8 before Saturday. They'd only conceded 2 goals twice in that period as well. So they weren't shipping goals. They were picking up results. They were on a 3-game unbeaten run. The only defeat they'd had was away to Everton, and that was since the beginning of March. It was just a thoroughly good performance. Again, get the early sort of issue out the way, and there were a couple of moments where Burnley thought, okay, there's that little bit about them again, but once Newcastle got control, that was it. There was no coming back from that. They were ruthless with the finishing. I guess except Isak with his penalty. We'll forgive him that one because he scored immediately.
He scored about 30 seconds later.
I mean, he couldn't have done anything else really, but then and then scored straight afterwards was just. I mean, it must have been 40, 50 seconds afterwards. It was insane, but I just thought they were very, very good. I know we'll talk about the fullbacks a little bit in detail. I thought they were excellent. The way they were utilised as well, and praise Eddie Howe. As was said, we will give him credit where credit is due, and we'll pick decisions apart when we think they're due too. I thought the way that those two played were really good. There is some images knocking around on Twitter that I can't remember the account that put them up was at one point going into the box. Livramento had the ball and Hall was the furthest player forward.
They were playing
almost as two centre forwards. It reminded you a little bit of the way that Spurs fullbacks have sort of played at times this season, playing that sort of inverted sort of role. But I thought
and peak Liverpool as well with Robertson and Trent, the way they play.
But and I thought they were excellent. I think the two centre backs didn't have an awful lot to do. Dan Burn again I thought was really good early doors. I think he was kind of the difference in just held that line while Burnley looked a threat. Kraft obviously just do a job in there because that's realistically what you're going to get out of him. I thought he did a decent job, and then you just go forward and it was. I thought everybody else on the field was excellent. I thought Murphy had a really, really good game. He's now got 6 assists this season, which matches Miggy's all-time Premier League assist record in what is it 5 years. So I thought Sean gets some praise as well for the way that he played at the weekend. I thought he was really, really good. It was great all over the park. I think the only negative, I think, was that first sort of 5-10 minutes. I absolutely agree with that. I think Burn did save them a little bit in that first 5 or 10 minutes. But other than that, aside from the penalty miss, it was just a thoroughly professional performance. I thought it was really, really good, and it took a side that was showing some fight and showing some form and put them to bed.
Absolutely, and I must say, fair play as well to Vincent Kompany, who came out and their class act really just turned around and said, we were beaten by a superior team. He said we couldn't get anywhere near them. They were brilliant, and fair play. I've got a lot of time for managers who do that and don't try and turn it around and and say, we should have had this, we should have had that. He just held his hands up and said, Newcastle were on form and they beat us, and I've got a lot of respect for that. I mean, Burnley have been so naive, I think, this season for too long as well. Yes, the last kind of 7 or 8 games or something. They've picked up a bit and they've been quite hard to beat and been a bit more kind of structured and a bit more tighter. But most of the season have been as wide open as Sharon Stone's legs, as I always say. And people have just played through them, battered them left, right, and centre. And it's just, it's unfortunate for them that the pennies dropped too late. And I think it's probably looking like they are going to go down. But yeah, you're right, Mark. I mean, some notable mentions as well. And I didn't say this on the post match. I did give him some praise, but I didn't say this particular bit. But I thought Sean Longstaff was much better. At the weekend, he looked like the Sean of old in terms of mobility, running, getting into the box, and he took his goal really well. And it must be said, Lewis Hall's tackle and pass crossfield switch for that goal was brilliant for a 19-year-old left back. If that's what this lad can do, and he's just going to get better and better, my God, we could have one of the best left backs in the league. But going on to Sean, he covered a lot of ground. He put challenges in. He was busy. He was a nuisance again, like he was a few weeks ago when you gave him praise. But one thing I want to say about Sean, and again, it goes back to the manager. And as much as we have had some frustrations with Eddie this season, I think that's safe to say. There's being frustrated with some of the things that he does, and then there's wanting them out. They're two different things altogether. But I think one thing that nobody's ever questioned about Eddie Howe is his man management capabilities, and this kind of shone through with what Sean Longstaff said. So he was interviewed after the game. He was obviously beam and smile. And it was a very good weekend for the Longstaff family, but we'll maybe come on that and Out of Toon as well in a minute. But so he gets his goal. And after the game, he's getting interviewed. And he said that the manager pulled him to one side and just said, listen, we can't control what people are saying about you, but all you can do is play your football I know you're a good player and show me what you're capable of. And that's what he did. And he got his goal. And again, it's so simple, Mark, but it's something that, like Shiro said about Bobby Robson, in terms of his man management ability, his ability just to grab a player on a training pitch and just say a sentence to him like that, just to give him that extra spring on a weekend. And massive credit to Eddie Howe for that, because Sean is a confidence player. We know he's had some times where he's felt low, thanks to certain mediocre shit former managers, making the lad feel that way, as a young lad as well. But
whoever can you be talking about?
Yeah, I have no idea. Something that rhymes with well, it's the Baron, isn't it? Really, let's be honest here. I can't even be asked to think of a rhyme. But going back to that, mate, it's lovely to hear that from Sean, isn't it, about Eddie Howe? And it was lovely to see Sean playing again with a bit more freedom and less pressure on his shoulders than he has done over the last few weeks.
Absolutely. I thought it's funny, isn't it? Because I praised him for the way that he played against Spurs, because I thought he did the job he was asked to do very, very well. He did an awful lot of patrolling Maddison in that game. He didn't let him out of his sight. He did a perfect job on him. The game against Palace, less said about the whole thing, the better. I mean, just don't single him out for negative on that one. It was a poor performance overall. But I think at the weekend he did shine. I think there was that confidence with him. I think he took his goal really, really well, and you just look and go,
great finish.
How have you not scored more if you can finish like that? But I think it's that confidence thing in it, and I think he just got himself into the best position over the ball. He kept it down, and an awful lot of the time when you see Sean approach the ball to strike it, he's leaning back, he gets underneath it, and he's not set properly. So everything sort of came together for that goal, and look, he's got that in his locker. We've seen it. He needs to do it more often. He needs to have much more of a positive impact on games. He needs to be better with the ball at his feet. He needs to pass better. It's an interesting one, because you still look at his passing stats for the weekend, and he still sits under 80%, and that's constant for him, when an awful lot of other players will sit above that. To be fair, Bruno was under 80% of the weekend as well. I think they were just trying a little bit more, but he tends to sit lower of those three. And it's not like he's the one trying to unpick the lock. You'd expect him to be high, because he plays more higher percentage passes, but an awful lot of those do tend to go astray. And that's something we've called him on a few times. But yeah, I think, like you say, the confidence, the man management to really sit him down and just look, you've got to get the best out of what you've got. And there's not been an awful lot in that squad. So he has to get the best out of them. And I think the way that he's handled that is really, really good. And obviously Sean's responded.
Absolutely brilliant. Great comment there from Geordie Revolution. He's loving this morning, and apparently Mark Goldbridge is now claiming it's the referees causing Man U's form and seasons. Of course he is, Geordie Revolution, because that's what he does. He quite a bit with his team's absolutely dog shit, which they are right now.
If you haven't seen his meltdown for the disallowed goal earlier,
go and
watch after the show. Go and watch it. It is comedy gold.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Just comment there from Duncan about Longstaff. To be fair, you might be right, Duncan. He may be a squad player moving forward, but listen, football needs players like, you need squad players like that who can come in and do jobs. Even was it the Man City side that was dominant with Torre and Silva and Aguero, still had people like Fabian Delph in there, and Scott Carson, as the third choice keeper and all that. So we are going to have these types of players in the squad. Going forward in the summer, I think the difference with Sean is because he's pure profit. You could sell him and balance the FFP PSR scenario. You're probably not going to be wanting to sell Louis Miley. You're not going to be selling Elliot Anderson, because they've got higher ceilings probably than Sean has. But we'll give him criticism when he plays poorly, but we'll give him praise when he's good, just like the manager. And he was really, really good at the weekend, as was everybody really. But just to finish on the fullbacks, Mark, again, the fullbacks are playing so well. I'm not even missing Kieran Trippier, and that's not a diss to Kieran Trippier, because I love Kieran Trippier. He's such a good player, and he's done so much for his football club. He's the sign that started it all. He's got the leadership capabilities. He's still amazing from dead balls. But watching Tino Livramento and Lewis Hall bomb on at fullback, arriving at the box to both have shots at the keeper. Crossfield switches. Just sprinting past players and like they're not even there, like the Giggs or Bale, and then come back and defending somebody. Seeing this kind of fullback. I mean, Gareth Southgate was in the crowd, Mark. I know Gareth Southgate has issues with his eyesight. In terms of players, quite often, especially players in form over players that he loves. But my God, how exciting is it to have those two players performing the way they are at 19 and 21? This is what, the second, third, fourth game in a row where we've said how good they've looked. We've got Brighton at home next, which hopefully be a nice, open, expansive game for us. And then obviously we've got to go to Trafford and beat these tosspots who are getting humped tonight. And hopefully they'll continue to fall to pieces. But it's really exciting, isn't it, to see how Hall and Tino end the season. And just to throw a curveball at you, is there a late shout for maybe Tino in the England squad? Because there is off form and injuries and stuff. And, do you think you'll get a chance to maybe nip in as a fullback?
As a utility one, perhaps. I mean, I think you're starting to, or your first choice two are always going to be Walker and Trent. Depends on how Southgate wants to utilise Trent. If he now sees him as a central midfielder and play him alongside Declan Rice, I guess. But he's definitely the future, without a shadow of a doubt. He has the pace to get up and back. And again, no slight on Trippier at times, but sometimes Trippier he gets himself forward and he will do his damnedest to get back and support, and he'll get back and defend. But Tino's got the benefit of age on him, hasn't he? He's got that little bit more pace about him. Hall, the other side as well. I mean, I know we've kind of spent an awful lot of the season screaming for him to be part of the squad, and look, we sort of, you bow to the manager's knowledge at this point, because we don't see him in training every day. He knows what he's capable of. He must do. But he's taken his time, and maybe it has just been a case of he's just taken a little bit longer to adapt to what Eddie Howe wants him to do than Tino has. I mean, Tino was thrust in really, really early, and just caught fire straight away, right back and left back. Hall's just taken that little bit longer, but I think it's done him some good, because when he's coming, he's just been excellent. And you're right. I mean, England are struggling for left backs at the moment because they're all flipping injured or shit. And I mean, on form, I know it's only a few games, but you can't tell me he doesn't deserve to be in the conversation alongside Chilwell, who's done absolutely nothing all season. A potentially returning Luke Shaw, who's not played pretty much all season. There's not an awful lot else, and it's probably far too late for him to be getting a place on the plane. Tino, perhaps, because he can give you an option at both sides. I guess we'll see in terms of Trippier's fitness whether Trippier will do that as well, because he will give you an option on both sides too. But yes, Kevin, I agree. Chilwell, he's awful. That's about as much as we need to say about that. But look, I think that their future 2 and 3 for England, I really do. They look like they've got a decade together now. Playing with each other. That sounds wrong, but playing in the same
those comments again. Easy. We'll get those comments in the chat. Watch it.
They just look like they belong. They really, really do. And you put another younger centre back alongside Botman, and what a back four that will be.
Well, that was, I think that's been a big issue this season, is the age of the back four. It's probably crept up on us that we didn't even realise. And then obviously the injuries haven't helped, and the longer recovery. I mean, the injuries to Botman's been killer this season, I think, for the back four, really. But going on to this, finishing on Tino and Hall, yeah, you're right. I mean, this tournament might be one too soon for them, but I do think after this tournament, I think the likes of Trippier and Walker might very well hang up England and just say that's them done, and maybe have another couple of years at club level, and then that'll be them finished. Especially if they win the tournament, that's an easy way to go out on top, isn't it? But I do think Tino and Hall next in a national competition, I'd be shocked if they're not, if they're not in the squad, if they're not starting. If they keep continuing the way they're going to continue, which is absolutely brilliant. So one other player who might want to be on the plane, and he might actually have a better chance than Tino Livramento, fair play to him, is a certain Callum Wilson. So Callum Wilson, if you didn't know already, scored at the weekend. And that put him ahead of Pedro himself, probably the greatest Newcastle United footballer I think most of us have ever seen. Footballer, I said, not goal scorer, in Peter Beardsley in terms of Premier League goals. And that's no mean feat. He's only was he only about 100 behind Alan Shearer, I think it is. What was he on, 48 goals or something? Shearer's got 148 Premier League goals. He's got a way to catch him, but it was almost a reminder, Mark, of the weekend, wasn't it, as to who Callum Wilson is when he's fit and when he's at it. Even straight from the kickoff, I said this in the post-match, he just ran straight at the Burnley players. And one of the Burnley players tried to body check him and he just bounced off of him. And then he went to the next one and they tried it and he just bounced off them and he squared up to one of them. And you thought, oh, Wilson's really up for this today. And he was just busy everywhere. He showed every aspect of his game, his goal poaching capabilities, his strength, his pace, his ability to get in behind, his ability to play on the turn as well, and link up with other players. And when you see Callum like that, you kind of think, you want him to stay, don't you? But out of everybody, I mean, I'm going to ask you whether you think he will stay, but he was asked that question. Eddie was asked that question, and Eddie said he wants to keep him. Wilson said he's contracted, so he's going to come back in the preseason for Newcastle. But again, I hate talking about all this PSR and FFP shit because this isn't an accountancy podcast, but you feel like being a football fan, you've got to have a degree in accountancy these days just to support your team. But, when you look at the players who could fetch a fee, Wilson could certainly fetch a fee. And if he keeps scoring goals like he has done in these last couple of games, it's a reminder to people how good he can be. But it's that injury issue that keeps the doubt in your mind about whether you should keep him or not. But two questions there, Mark, I suppose. One, will he play himself into the England squad if he keeps scoring, he finishes strong? And two, will he be here next season?
I mean, if he keeps scoring before the end of the season, he's putting himself in the window for selection, isn't he? Because Tony hasn't scored in 10 games now.
Wow.
I think the obvious, you're obviously going to take Kane. I think Ollie Watkins has probably deserved the opportunity to go as well.
Certainly, the season he's had a great season. Watkins.
Oh, he's been phenomenal. But
yeah,
but just look at, Wilson's goal return. It doesn't matter. I suppose it does matter. He doesn't play, but when he does play, he scores. The first, just having a look at his record for Newcastle in the Premier League alone, and I'll go the overall. So in terms of 90 minutes played, his first season, it was 12 in 23.2. His second Premier League season was 18 in 20.9. So very close to being a goal a game. This season is 9 in 10.9. So you're well over a goal just over every, what's that? 30, 39 in 50 games. It's a hell of a return.
Don't use your brain too hard when you're back in the hospital bed, mate. Come on, stats, careful, beware.
But his record, his overall record in terms of all comps is 48 in 80 90s played. It's 48 goals in 107 games played. Actual games rather than minutes. It's a phenomenal record. And he is a natural goal scorer. He will just score goals, and you're loath to let him go because you want that backup, and I do think he would be brilliant as exactly what he did at the weekend, and give, if you have Isak as your number 9, and then sitting Wilson if he's willing to as the player to come in and give you 30-35 minutes in a game, or take over in games when you want to sit Isak and give him a rest, or like they did at the weekend, play the both of them. It's a tough one, and you're right. You also look at the fact that he is a sellable asset. There's time on his contract. He will score goals. That is like gold dust to get a player in that is going to guarantee you some goals, and especially maybe for one of those mid-table clubs that wants a 20-goal a season striker. He's one if you can keep him fit. That's just the biggest problem with him.
Yeah, that's always been the issue with Callum, I think, throughout his career. And no disrespect to Newcastle United as a club, it's my club, it's our club. If Wilson had been able to stay fit, and he did exactly what Mark just said he did, he probably would have fucked off for an Arsenal or a Chelsea or a Man United, before the takeover even happened, probably, Mark, wouldn't he, in all fairness, because that's what players, clubs that we were at the time, mid-table clubs do. But I mean, it's a real crossroads moment for Callum in terms of, you say he's 31, 32. He's at a club that's going in the right direction. He's become a Champions League footballer at this club, which he's never done before. He's got in the England team as a regular, which he didn't really do at Bournemouth. He had little moments here and there, but at Newcastle, he became a regular. He went to an international tournament. He knows he's probably got 2 or 3 years at the top level in him. So he's probably thinking, right, am I happy to stay here, and do what I'm doing with Alex, and maybe play games, not loads of games, handfuls of games, and make sure I recover right and all that kind of stuff, and still have that impact, and get into international squads and everything else? Or does he fancy maybe going abroad, trying something new before he retires? Because he seems like that kind of a guy, Wilson, that he might fancy playing in a different league. And where I could see him, I think I said it in the post-match, I could see him going to somewhere like Serie A. Look how good Loftus-Cheek's done over there. He's rejuvenated his career. If Wilson was to go over to Serie A, you could see him scoring goals, because there's more time, there's more space for him getting behind back fours and things like that, mainly because most of the centre-halves are about 49. But, you can see Wilson doing that. You could see him playing in La Liga for a couple of seasons, maybe fancies, the MLS or even Saudi, who knows? But, I just think that for us, he might just be too sellable an asset for us to continue having him, because there is going to have to be a big player that goes, I think, in the summer. Now, you're looking at him and Miggy Almiron, really, Mark, aren't you, as the main two, I think. And Miggy makes a bit more sense. That there's a lot of links to right wingers. Apparently we're interested in Elise, whether that's true or not. We've got Minter, who's been on fire, coming back as well. Murphy's really improving as a player as well. Gordon can play on the right as well. We've got Barnes on the left too. So it just makes you wonder whether Miggy's the one to go or Wilson's the one to go, or Sean with that 100% profit. I mean, if you were going to say the likelihood of which one of those three is going to go, who's your money on in terms of one of those three? Because I think it will be one of those three that goes in the summer to raise funds in the PSR.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it comes down to Miggy. I genuinely think he's the limit of what he can give you has been reached. I think we saw that last season, that real purple patch. I
should have sold him last summer, really, for big money. That's what we should have done.
I think that would have been the time to cash in. But in hindsight, I kind of understand why Eddie Howe wouldn't want to do that. The hope of catching lightning in a bottle twice, it's probably never going to happen. We said that in the summer. But when you've got the likes of Barnes, Murphy, Guy Judge, when you've got the likes of Barnes, Murphy, and Gordon, you've got Willock will come back fit. Joelinton's now back in the squad. Possibly then integrating Minter into the squad as well next season. The place for Almiron just disappears, and if then another one was to come in, there's just no room. And I think he's absolutely served his purpose now at the club. He's done what he needs to do, and he can be thanked and move on for a good amount of money that frees up funds to go and pursue more needs in the squad. We know exactly where they to sort of, in terms of centre backs, probably another striker, and even in that forward line, I think that's probably somewhere else that you just need to take another step up from where Miggy is. I think he's the most likely.
Is that 5-0 to Palace, by the way? I've seen Darren's.
It's finished 4-0.
As a finished 4-0, get in the Palace. Everyone's in the comments. Absolutely brilliant. But yeah, I think you're right, Mark. I think it'll all look to see really who's the most valuable player. Because you're right, getting a striker and it's big money. Sesko's been linked. I mean, we still haven't. I think I seen a comment there before. Was it from? Just trying to find it. Yeah, from Niall saying we never replace Wood. There is pills for that, by the way, mate. But he means Chris Wood. Sorry, couldn't resist. So we haven't replaced Chris Wood. You're right, and we still need a third striker. Whether we're signing a Sesko or not, really, is Wilson happy to be that third striker or not? Does he want to be the number one striker? Is he happy being number two? I don't know, but there is an option there. If we are going to buy another striker to be a third striker, I tell you what, we could do a lot worse than go for Bertrand Diaz, mate. I think he's done really well at Sheffield United on loan, and I think he'd probably happy happily play that third choice striker in a top 6 Premier League team. You know, getting wheeled out for Carabao Cup games and things like that, mate. I think he would be quite happy to be that player. But it'd be interesting to see what happens in the summer, I think. But you're right, Mark. Going back to that, it will depend on who is going to be the most valuable asset in terms of keeping in the squad out of Miggy and Wilson. And I'm kind of with you. I think Miggy's the one you'd move on. I think because if Wilson shows you what he's capable of and he's happy to stay, then why wouldn't you let him stay?
No, absolutely. When you talk about third striker, I think that's where the future comes into play. I don't think I would disagree with you in terms of Burton Diaz. I don't think he comes in.
That's if Wilson goes and you get Sesko in as the number 2, is what I mean, and you need that third striker. Yeah,
I think you're angling at an 18, 19-year-old in the. I'm not going.
Isn't that Sesko though? Sesko is 19.
No, but I think he's more established. I think what you're looking for is the Minter, that sort of player to come in and be that third one to come in and learn his trade maybe he's at a higher level. If you maybe pick up one of the younger strikers, even from the Championship, that's starting to make a name for themselves.
Very good players there. Yeah.
So. Yeah, I don't think you get 3 senior strikers. I think if there was the option, it would be 1 Isak, 2 a player like Sesko, someone that will come in and will be your change of striker. If Callum Wilson was to leave, and number 3 would be one of the younger players that you bring in and that you develop either at the club or even have them on loan for half a season and then maybe bring them back in the winter if needs be, or allowed to stay if you're happy to carry on doing that. I think that's the way to do it. I think that would be the way I would look at it. But you'd love to keep Wilson just with the fact that he when he plays, he scores, and if he is going to be a more of a bit part player, you can potentially keep him fit for longer.
Yeah, I think Darren's right as well. He's got to be the third choice if he stays because you can't rely on him for fitness. You really can't. So I think for that regard, if he is going to stay, he will have to understand what his role is completely. Colin F and J7, we were just talking about this actually before we went in there. I saw Sky giving credit to Chelsea, Man U and Spurs for getting Europe, but didn't give any to Eddie Howe for dealing with all the setbacks. We've had horrendous and still also getting Europe. You're right. We're just saying this as well. I flicked on the halftime chat, the back of the halftime chat, and they were talking about how poor Man United were once again and not how great Palace were. And it's just typical of the media, the mainstream media. That's why people watch fan-led media way more as well, because even if it's Goldberg having a meltdown, you know what I mean? People will watch it because at least they're honest and they're raw and they'll give other people credit. Whereas Sky and TNT and even BBC as well, which was said before the rant video, they don't give people enough credit. And it's a fucking disgrace, really, because, you know, there's 2 football teams that go into a pitch. And if one of them is playing out their skin and obliterates the other, give them the praise they deserve. Don't talk about, you know, again, they do the eulogy about Jurgen Klopp. I mean, that thing at the weekend with Pete Drury was an absolute disgrace. I mean, if there'd been a camera in that commentary box, it probably just read him straight around his ankles, knocking one out over Jurgen Klopp, gurning on the sideline. I mean, who the fuck is this bloke? Where did they find him? Honestly, he's a complete prick. He really is.
I had the wife in stitches at the weekend because when they were rabbiting on about Klopp, and I went, fuck me, you'd think he died. Seriously, you would think he would. It was a eulogy. It was this, oh no, we're sad that we've lost him. It's like, what on earth is going on? He's just leaving the club. Jesus, honestly, it's absolutely pathetic. And I love the lines that some of the fans keep coming up. Well, he's only 3 games away from having won this, and this. And in my head, I've got that Gino De Campo thing, you know, if my auntie had bollocks, she'd be my uncle sort of thing, or if she had wheels, she'd be a bike, or whatever it was. And you just honestly just give it up. He's not the second coming. Yes, he's been great for them, but it's sickening, absolutely sickening.
Well, we'll save that because I've got some more to say about Mr. Klopp later on in Out of Toon, so we will get stuck into that in a minute. But yeah, just to talk about some more good news at the weekend, the boys were back in town. How great was it to see on the bench Joelinton, and he come back on to a rapturous applause. Mickey was back, and Nick Pope as well, Mark, to see those players back, you know, to fitness. you're back in the squad, towards the business end of the season. It's just, it's great. I mean, it's a shame they haven't been there months before, but just to look at that bench again and weekend and go, Jesus, we've got players back. It was tremendous, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, look, having Joelinton back, and I think possibly early on was surprised a few because, I mean, initially he wasn't expected to be ready for the rest of the season. And I think Nick Pope took a little bit longer than expected to be back, but like it's tremendous to see them back because it's options now, isn't it? It's the ability to be able to change things off the bench, especially with Joelinton or even Miggy. To be fair to him, because I think as a player off the bench, he'll come on and be that wasp and he just drives people crazy with the amount of running that he does. But if you get 30 minutes out of him, you'll be even worse for people because they're already tired at that point. Good night, mate.
Good evening, Ty. A drilling crew of Bollock.
I'll enjoy.
Is Ty Bruce Willis in Armageddon? Fuck me, sort that asteroid out, Ty. It's more important than watching us, mate. We love you. Watch us on a catch-up, mate. Come on, save the planet. Fucking hell. Jesus. Good to see you, mate. Good to see you.
But yeah, and look, I think the sooner Nick Pope is fit and ready to play, the better. Because we'll go back to Dubravka. I just think, and you said this before we came on, there is a reason why Nick Pope was bought to take over from Martin Dubravka. And he's had a couple of decent games. He makes some good saves at times. But he is suspect. And he makes a lot of mistakes. He's not confident coming out. He won't sweep anywhere near as well as Nick Pope. And I think he is a bit of a liability at times. So the sooner he can get back into the starting lineup, the better there.
Yeah, I mean, Dubravka is poor. He's so hesitant to come off his line. He doesn't feel for the conference. I think the reason that we're looking better is because of clear reasons. The two fullbacks, Dan Burn back in his natural position of centre half, it's added, solidity to the back line. The midfield looks a lot better as well. Stronger for having Elliot Anderson there with his legs and his energy as well. And Longstaff look better, obviously, the last game or two. Bruno on top form. But yeah, Dubravka is definitely out of here, I think, in the summer. There's no way he's stopping it. Gillespie's got his contract extension because nobody carries waters and sings Ronan Keaton on karaoke like that boy does, and that's why he deserves his contract. But he's going to be around as the third choice keeper, but there's no way Dubravka's here after the end of this season. He's not showed enough for me. He really hasn't. And that brief moment where we kind of kidded ourselves on that he was a better keeper than we thought he was, but as I said, there was a reason we signed Pope, and every time he hesitates and he comes out and looks as big as a fucking micro machine, when he's facing up a striker on a 1-on-1, then you remind yourself, that's the reason why, we had Pope signed in any way. It's a good shout, Darren. Will he play on Saturday? It all depends on how fit Pope is, I suppose. He won't want to rush him in, but a home game, St James's Park, it might be an idea, Mark. If he looks sharp in training, what do you think? Because keepers are different outfield players.
It is. I mean, the shoulder thing worries me, but he'll be able to have kept up a level of fitness outside of the shoulder, no contact or anything like that. But he can keep up work and keep his fitness. It's not like he has to run 14 kilometers in a game. Yes, he's got to be on his toes. Yes, he's got to move quickly, but he's not going to have to do nearly as much work as somebody returned into the centre midfield. I think if he's fit, he plays. For me, he's the number one. If he's ready to go, you don't hold him back. I think the games coming up are too important to take a chance on in that regard. Although I flip that and say, if you're taking a chance, if you don't think he's fully ready, you don't play him. Because what you don't want is any recurrence of any injury and picking anything up,
causing any damage. Yeah, and the way our season's been as well. Fucking hell,
exactly right.
it could very well be that. But no, we'll see what happens at the weekend. So moving on to the next section, director Dougie. Yes, so the director of football search continues. Unlike Manchester United's prime target, who's still pruning his tulips in the garden and putting a double coat of Ronsil on the decking, our search for a director of football is a lot less restrictive, Mark, isn't it? So it looks like, I think Fabrizio Romano tweeted something. You're going to pull up the image in a second, Mark, by the wonders of internet magic. If you find your buttons, I'm waving your hands.
I'm trying to find it now.
Like an illusionist here. Yeah, he is. There he is. Anyone in the audio, I've just been waving my fingers like I was in that Now You See Me movie. Yeah. So this was Fabrizio Romano who tweeted, Newcastle advancing in talks to appoint Dougie Freedman as the new director of football. Negotiations ongoing. It's up to Freeman, as he's doing an excellent job at Palace. He's now a front runner for the role. I mean, obviously, he was a former player for Palace. He was credited with signing the likes of Elise, Eze, Marcus Guy as well. So he's had a really good spell there. Now, what was interesting to me, I don't know if you remember this, I think it was Rio Ferdinand who did a podcast. It's 5 podcasts or some bollocks. I don't listen to it because I don't want my ears to bleed. Listen to that tit talking about anything for half an hour. And he was really disrespectful when Dougie Freedman was linked to Manchester United previously, if you remember. And I thought it was quite disgraceful, actually, in terms of the way he behaved. I think who's the big social guy for Palace? Is it HTLCO, isn't it? I think
HLTCO.
HLTCO. I always get it wrong around. Apologies, mate. But he retweeted it and said that was really, really disgraceful, disrespectful, because he's done such a good job. And now it's interesting because obviously Manchester United were back sniffing around him, and now it looks like we may have stolen the march. So that would be amazing if we were able to nick this guy from Palace and possibly even, get a hold of, say, an Elise or something like that under Manchester United's noses. What a way to rub salt in the wounds, mate.
Anything that can wind them up. Do you know what I mean? Take absolutely anything. Look, if you're right, I think he's fundamental in the signing of deals for Elise. I think Ezra's was a player that came through their ranks, wasn't he?
I think you got that from QPR. The signing from QPR, I think, didn't it? Eze, I'm sure it was QPR that got him from.
I
think Elise might be one or two.
Elise definitely came in. I think Mark Gay as well was another one that came in under Freedman. I think he was also. He'd been part of he would have been part of the deal that brought obviously when he brought Gallagher as a younger player into the club for the season to play and did a really, really good job for them. So he's been fundamental to what they've done.
Bruni says Reading. That's where Eze came from. Reading. Was it Reading?
Eze came. No, you were right. Eze came from QPR in 2020.
QPR, but it must have been. Elise came from Reading then, possibly. It might have been that. Possibly.
Funny enough, Eze.
He's got an eye for a player. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, I think we'll absolutely with that.
Is the point.
I'm just trying to find out now where Elise came from. Elise was Reading. So yeah, we got them the wrong way around.
Yeah, Bruni was right. Yeah, it was Reading for Elise. But like you say,
by the way.
And Kev's right. There's more than that. There's Anderson, there's Mateta as well. All these players that he's probably played his part in the scouting and that kind of team of scout network to find those players. And the thing about these new owners is they do their due diligence. They're not going to go and get somebody just on the strength of, that lad's looking good, or who's involved with that, or Dougie Freedman, let's sign him. They probably looked at him and tracked him for quite a long period of time, and they've developed this short list of people. We've said names before. Paolo Maldini was a Hollywood name, and then we had, even Edu, I think, from Arsenal was linked. I don't know if that was a wind-up or not, but you had Mitchell as well, didn't you? And then you got Dougie Freedman now, who looks like he's front runner. But I know what's key for them is they want somebody with Premier League experience, and Freeman has that. And Palace definitely look like they're on the move upwards, in terms of this new manager and these players that he's implemented. But would Dougie Freeman see Newcastle as probably a bigger project than Palace? No disrespect to Palace, because they are going in the right direction by the looks of it.
I think they're ready to take another step up, aren't they? If they can keep the band together, and that's going to be the difficult thing. If they can keep the likes of Eze and Elise and the likes of Gay,
I think they might struggle. I think they might struggle in some way. I think
you're right. Yeah. Absolutely. They will potentially lose one or two of those, but if they've got the pieces in place to be able to go and replace them, a little bit like Brighton. Brighton have made a good living over selling their players to Chelsea, and then go and get money. Go and spending a little bit and go and replacing them elsewhere. But Palace could very much do the same thing and take a step into getting into that top 10, because they've sat in that sort of 13th, 14th position for the last what, 4, 5, 6 years or something. They don't never seem to get beyond that, and they've kind of hit their peak, and I think they're ready to take that step. But I think Freedman would look at this and think, yes, it is absolutely is a. It's still early days in this project, isn't it? It really is. That you're only a few transfer windows into it. There's still the basis of the old squad that's there. There's so many of those players that are likely to move on or in the process of being moved on, and he's gonna have a busy time trying to bring in players that can come in and do that job, whether that be first team players or players for the future, the likes of Minter and stuff that came in before. So I think it definitely looks at this, and it's a project beyond where he is at Palace, and he can take this so much further than the one that he could at Palace. Again, no disrespect to them. I just think Newcastle's means are way, way, way above what anything Palace could achieve.
Exactly, especially with these new rules coming in season after next, where it looks like we might have a bit of spending power as well. So it could be really, really good for Freeman. So we'll keep our eyes on that one. I'm sure that'll be closed out fairly soon. So moving into the first category, well, the last category of the night, which was Out of Toon, and the first section of Out of Toon, which isn't actually Out of Toon. It is in tune. It's all about one of our young, exciting talents. Now, this it caught a lot of attention on social media, Mark. It's about young Louis Miley and his new ink, his fresh ink, as you can see here. So this got loads of attention on social media. Now, Louis Miley's out with a back injury, and he just turned 18, so happy birthday to you, Louis Miley. I don't think he's got them shit yellow cards that we used to have in Whitley Bay, Are You 18, when you were able to first go into the bar, and then you never got asked for it anyway, did you? Because you were drinking there from when you were like 17 or 16 in some cases. Whenever you had a little crap tash, you only got it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Must have been somebody else, man. Must have been somebody else. Cough, cough. Your mum doesn't watch us, don't worry. So Louis Miley obviously marked his 80th birthday by getting a fresh tattoo at a No Shields tattoo shop as well. 4th Avenue, I think it was called. So shout out to 4th Avenue. Now, this tattoo went out there, and obviously Louis Miley is very proud of playing for his hometown club and everything else. And his tattoo, as you can see there, is Louis Miley on the pitch with his number 67 saying, "Never give up on your dreams." Now, we'll just hold that up there for a second, Mark, because people were really quick to give this shit. And I don't think they saw the meaning of the tattoo. I looked at the meaning of the tattoo and thought that's quite a good thing, a nice thing for the lad to put on his arm, because wherever he ends up in the world, hopefully he'll be at Newcastle for years to come. But if he does end up doing a Jude Bellingham, if he's playing for Real Madrid with a fucking Newcastle tattoo on, happy days. But people were slagging off the actual design. I know you said the player didn't quite look like Louis Miley, did you? When you first looked at it.
Well, and I'd seen the tweet, and I immediately thought, hey, it doesn't. It almost looks like Mickey from the back, doesn't it? Funny enough, but he got pelters online, and I don't know, social media is a poor barometer of stuff, but it did get.
Sean's just killing me there. He gets everywhere, Sean. I wouldn't be surprised if he's just suddenly appeared on a player's tattoo. It would just be about right.
Yeah, exactly. But look, if it's what he wanted and he's happy with it, who the fuck are we to judge? Do you know what I mean? If that's exactly what he wanted, then he's happy with it. So what? Look, get on with it. He's a young lad. He wanted something like that. Fine, he can get on with it. No problem with it. If it doesn't, not to everybody else's taste, that's up to them. If that's what he wanted, fine, get on with it.
So Ian said, "It's Adam P got his Murdad tattoo yet?" I don't know. I haven't checked Adam P's persons, mate, to be fair. Yeah, Darren's not impressed with the tattoo, I don't think. I mean, like you say, if the lad wants it, let him get it. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, he was happy with it. Obviously, he posted it all on socials. So fair play to Louis Miley. Exactly. I'll tell you somebody else who we're going to say fair play to. And there is a Newcastle link here as well, because the former great Newcastle manager, Bobby Robson, is attached to both of these clubs. And if you hadn't seen already, congratulations to Ipswich Town, who got promoted into the Premier League. First time in 20-something years. Very similar to us getting back in the Champions League. So buzzing for Ipswich. I used to work for a company based in Kingsland, as you remember, Mark, and I knew Norwich and Ipswich fans. So I probably pissed off half of them and made the other half quite happy. But it was a brilliant achievement for Ipswich Town. Well deserved, mate, really, wasn't it? It'd be great to see them back in the Premier League.
Yeah, I'm really, really pleased. They've been exciting this season. They play some good football, and I'm really looking forward to see the way that they try and adjust to the Premier League, because we saw Burnley come up and not adapt. And they tried to do everything the way that they did last year, and it just wasn't going to work. I'm really curious to see how some of their players adapt to the Premier League. I think they've got some really, really good ones. The likes of Leif Davis, if he's not tempted away in the summer, excited to see what he can do in the Premier League, because I think he's a really good fullback. But they go right through the team, and they've got some really, really good, exciting players. And I'm so pleased.
Fullback as well from the other side. The Geordie fullback's a good player. Is it the left back? Is it? What's he called?
Leif Davis is the kid that plays at left. He's exceptional. Yeah, like I say, I'm really excited to see them come up. And for me, they're one of the ones, when you talk about Premier League sides, I see them as a Premier League side. And I know they've been gone for 20 years, but in my head, they're still a Premier League side, and they should be there. So I'm really, really, really pleased for them.
Yeah, and it'd be nice to see a bit of a Bobby Robson derby as well when it comes to Newcastle.
Yeah, exactly.
Ipswich, because both fan bases obviously hold that man very close to their hearts, and I think that'll be a wonderful atmosphere, especially with war flags as well. You know, when that fixture gets announced as well. But I'll tell you somebody else who's struggling to settle to the Premier League at the minute, mate. I can't believe I'm saying it. It's Bukayo Saka at Arsenal. He's been in the wars, the poor lad. He's upset. He's having a problem because he keeps getting bad tackles put on him, and this was his shin after a bit of a stiffener. And you wanted to offer him some advice, Mark, about a useful piece of apparatus that we once had when we were young children, and it were called shin pads, mate. Did you want to just run Saka through what you mean by this madness of a shin pad?
Look, I think it's a fucking horrendous. Let's get it out straight away. That's a fucking horrendous tackle, and I have no idea why that wasn't reviewed properly. To be fair to him, that's a shocker, and I think that probably deserves a red card. However, wear shin pads. Like, your shin pads are about the size of a 50-pence piece, mate, and you're not the only player that does this. Wear proper shin pads. That kind of shit doesn't happen. It's not that hard. It really
pretty
isn't.
much. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, as Martin says there, the size of them are more like fanny pads now. They really are, to be fair. They're shocking. You know, they're not going to protect you from anything. In those shin pads, and I tell you what is also something that is going to struggle to protect you from is the mouth of the turkey teeth twat that is Jurgen Klopp. And it won't be too long for me to say that sentence. And I'm waiting for Sky to wheel Elton John out with his fucking piano in a minute and play a sad song, Goodbye Jurgen Klopp, or something like that. But as we know, you know, the master of moaning was back at it again. And this is what Jurgen Klopp had said. There was a video doing rounds on Twitter. He was moaning about fixtures just for a change. And this guy honestly said this like it was charming or charismatic. He said, I was waiting for Amnesty International to go to them. That's what he said about the fixture scheduling, what he described as a crime. Well, thankfully, Amnesty International saw the funny side of it and said, hi, Jurgen, maybe next year. We're a bit busy at the moment, but please feel free to donate in the meantime. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, Amnesty International, obviously, have got a lot more shit on their plate, stopping atrocities and human rights being violated and wars breaking out and everything else, to deal with some moaning big German turkey teeth twat who just moans about playing too much football because he's basically pissed in every cup that he had a chance of winning, bar one, which was the Mickey Mouse Cup that they all moan about winning anyway and playing. And I'll be so glad to see the back of this tit, Mark. Honestly, I can't even put it into words. I could try, but I didn't write in a novel for the reasons I'm glad to see the back of Jurgen Klopp. I mean, get the fuck on the bin. Shut up, man. Honestly, what is he talking about?
Yeah, this whole end of the Klopp era tour now, I'm done with. I think it was an interesting one to kind of see what would happen with it being his last one. Would they win this? Would they win that? And they won the Carabao, but I'm done. It's really strange because in the very beginning, I absolutely loved him. I thought he was great.
I thought he was great at the start. Same as Jose when he came in. He was brilliant at the start.
But he's just I think you nailed it when he had his eyes done. When he stopped wearing the glasses permanently, and he's just become such a miserable bastard. Just
entitled.
I'm really done.
It's when he
The
won the
worst-
title. That's when he got worse. When
Yeah.
he won the title, he got worse then. He totally got worse then.
What I've just, because it's also Arne's slot that's coming in, isn't it? That's going to take over. Is what's he going to be like from the start now? And my fear is he coming with that self of entitlement and stuff straight from the.
I think he'll be shite personally. I think he'll be shite. Monty's saying he's going to miss my anti-Klopp rants. Don't worry, somebody else will get it, Monty. I'm sure I will move my attention to them. But I think this new incoming Liverpool manager, and I've said this, and we'll say this at the end of season review, I generally do think that Liverpool are going to end up like Man United post-Fergie here. I really do. I think they're going to slip. And I think there's a massive opportunity for the likes of Newcastle and Villa to cement themselves in that top four and stay there. And I think Newcastle are in a really, really strong position to do this. And I think that will be flashing across the club's mindset in the summer. Because I honestly don't think this guy will pick up the baton and just run like Klopp's had them playing. Even if he does do it eventually, it'll take him a season and a half to adjust. And will he get the time? Like Moyes didn't do, like Emery didn't do when Wenger went. This happens to these clubs when they have these guys there for so long and they build this legacy. I generally do think there's an opportunity for Newcastle and the likes of Villa to step in. Obviously, I hope Newcastle do it, but to step into that position in the top four, mate. I really do. But he can't be any more of a prick than Jurgen Klopp. I think that is safe to say, mate. I really do. But
I sincerely hope not. But for views,
well, for the views of the channel, of course, mate. Of course, me ratting about the little boiled egg that is whatever his fucking name is. I'll have to remember it for the brand. But speaking of managers who were unfairly shredded, that's not you, Jurgen Klopp, and certainly had the last laugh. Now we're chuckling here because we have some good friends who are Aston Villa fans, and they did not shed a tear this weekend as Birmingham City were relegated. Now, if you didn't know already, Birmingham City got rid of their manager, John Eustace, for the Hollywood manager that was Wayne Rooney, and he was shit. He was absolutely fucking shit. The only way Wayne Rooney would have been good at Birmingham is if he brought his boots to play. He was terrible as a manager. He was fucking rancid as a manager. And he took Birmingham from 5th in the Championship right down the league, and they got relegated comfortably. Now, this was a club statement, I think, back... was it from Birmingham City?
The 9th of October.
The 9th of October for John Eustace, saying that it was essential that the board of directors and the football management are fully aligned with the importance of winning mentality. And that's why they got rid of John Eustace. Well, who's winning now, guys? I'm sure John Eustace, who managed to keep Blackburn Rovers up, was laughing his cock off all the way home in his car, Mark. I'm pretty sure.
Did you also on the back of that, did you see the Birmingham CEO or whatever he is, Tom Wagner, I think it is.
Yeah.
Pre-game at the weekend when he comes out and sort of shouting
this is our house.
Jacket, this is our house. This is our time. Really? think your house may be falling down, Sunshine.
Oh yeah. Yes, actually, Kev just reminded me there. There'll always be Arteta, Kev. Thank you.
That is true.
Of course, my rants for Arteta next year will be spectacular. I'm sure of that, because there's not many more self-entitled bastards than that Lego-headed twat. So he'll get it off me. Don't worry. He'll just take the baton up from Jurgen Klopp. But speaking of the weekend as well, we talked about Sean Longstaff earlier, Mark. We talked about Sean, and we talked about what a great weekend it was for him. It was a great weekend for the Longstaff family in general, because young Matty Longstaff got his first goal for Toronto. Not only that, he played really well as well, mate, didn't he? It's great to see Matty enjoying his football again.
Yeah, it's good to see him. Good to see him thriving on a field again. It's been too long, and really, really nice to see him get his first goal. And that we still go back to his time at the end, and just it is such a shame that it couldn't happen, and it didn't happen at Newcastle, and become part of the new world at the club. But it's just, I'm really pleased to see him back on the field again, back playing, and back in the goals.
Good night, Roger.
Cheers, Roger.
That must be an early start tomorrow. Must be an early start. Don't worry, Roger. It won't be too much longer. But yeah, great to see Matty back in the goals. I'll tell you what else was great as well the weekend was Byron Webster. What a penalty this was to send Bromley up. The facial expressions this guy pulled. Obviously, for people that are listening on the audio, you can see the picture of him there, looking smug as anything. Just a huge little smirk on his face and raising his eyebrows. as he went up to take a penalty. And he also had an EFL captain's armband on, Mark, which was just the best bit of shithousery you've ever seen in your life, because that's the league that we're going to get promoted up into. And he smashes it in the back of the net. And somebody asked him after the game, what did the keeper say to you? And he said, I know where you're going. He went, oh, do you? Because I don't. Which is just, I love that, mate. In that pressure moment, to have a bit of humour like that is mint, isn't it? I love that.
Yeah, I think he's what, 37, and he's a centre back, and he struck the ball like a full-time penalty taker, and he just the amount of we talk about Alexander Isak having ice in his veins at times. I mean, to be able to do that with a final spot kick, with the team on the brink of being promoted for the first time in their history, that's a legendary moment for him to have pulled on an EFL armband as well. I just think is a sensational bit of shithousery. I absolutely love it.
It really was brilliant. And just want to end on as well, Mark. Now, our days of playing football are long gone. We're never going to get a chance to get called up for our countries. Now, this isn't always the case, because sometimes a manager does something completely crazy that you don't expect. And mind you, I'm saying we don't expect it. Now, given the fact he is a rather eccentric character, we probably should be expecting this from a certain Marcelo Bielsa. But if people didn't see this already, so Marcelo Bielsa has called up an amateur footballer to his Uruguay squad to face Costa Rica in a friendly. This is Walter Dominguez, who scored 57 goals in 39 games for an amateur side. Is that Juventud de Soriano? Now, my God, I mean, maybe if we go back and play six-a-side, we might get a chance, mate. I certainly might get a chance, as I'm Scottish. I might get a stint, you know what I mean? I might get a spot on the bench, mate, in the Euros or something. What a great story this is.
Your squad will be thin, I think. So, yeah, I think you've probably got more chance than I have, definitely.
I'll certainly flatten that up, mate. Don't worry about that.
Although as keepers go, I might still have a chance. There's not too many good ones knocking around. That's a phenomenal story. If that does happen, he does get to play. I think that's an absolutely brilliant story. I think we'll be all over that if that does. I would love to see it.
That would be superb. Luke's saying the Man United fans' tears literally sustained him. It's an elixir of life, Luke. The result tonight was like the best salty anchovy heavy pizza I've ever had. And let me tell you, when I order pizza, I order a Napoli. It's superb, mate. Superb. Honestly, there's a story going through the rounds. We haven't brought it in Out of Toon, but I will mention it. Apparently, Anthony was caught in a WhatsApp group calling Ten Hag was it a bald egghead. And somebody sent that to Ten Hag. And I really, really hope that that's true, because that's just the cherry on top of that shit cake of a club. I'm definitely going to go off and watch some Mark Goldbridge clips, I think, soon, just to watch him explode and melt into a puddle of pure disappointment in his little shed there in front of his monitor, mate. But I am enjoying Manchester United's downfall, mate, as you are, I'm sure.
Well, I think everybody bar Manchester United fans sitting in London will enjoy the downfall of Manchester. It was a start funny before we go, and it was somebody, I can't remember who it was. I think it was the group, one of the group chats. It said something like, when was the last time they'd finished outside of, or when they finished 8th or lower? I think that the start was 89-90. I think when they finished 13th was the last time they finished outside of the top 7, and since then. I'm trying to find the stat. I sent them all in, and it was something absolutely.
You just said if that's the truth, he's ordering an egg on top of his pizza now as well. That's brilliant, mate. That's brilliant.
There we go. So 89-90 was the last time they finished as low as 8th. It was 13th. Since then, so between 91 and 2012-13, the lowest they finished was 3rd, which happened 3 times. And since 89-90 to now, they've finished in 7th once, 6th 4 times, and 5th once. Other than that, they were in the top 4. So, let them have a period of time when they shit. Everybody else has gone through it. We all have to live through moments of being absolutely dreadful. It's your turn. Get on with it, and you don't have this divine right to be at the top of the league, as they cry to every season they should be, and that's no, you shouldn't. You've been shit for long enough. let them get on with it. Let them cry. I'm enjoying it.
Those days are long gone. What a great way to end on Manchester United's misfortune. Absolutely brilliant. Well, that's us done for this week, guys. It's great to have you in the comments. It's great to have Mark back as well, riding side saddle here. We have missed him last week where he wasn't here. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you for
again
everybody's
for the love
comments
and the
as well.
support.
No, really appreciated.
Yeah, brilliant. Fantastic. So have a great night, everybody. We'll be back with some more banter this week. I'm sure we've got stuff to talk about. We'll keep an eye on the Dougie Freedman thing. Any transfer links we'll be back with. We'll also be back with some match previews for the upcoming game against Brighton and the post-match. As always, keep it evermore, guys. If you like what you see, smash subscribe. Come and help us get to that 8,000 mark as the next milestone for us. And we're hopefully going to get there lickety-split because we've got 7.5 quite quickly as well. But have a great evening wherever you are. Like the video, share it with everybody, help the channel grow. Have a great evening, day, afternoon, morning, wherever the fuck you are, wherever the fuck it is. Have a belter. We'll see you later. Cheers.
Take care, guys. Cheers.